Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you are all well and taking precautions to be safe during these hard times. I'm sure that we will be very strong and we will go over it. We want to thank you for joining us today for this webinar. Before we jump in, just a few logistics. Everybody's muted so that we can hear the presenter well. We want you to write your questions on the questions box, and we will be answering during the presentation and at the end. And if you have any other questions, at the end, you can always call us or email us. It's our pleasure to have Ari Redman, our Bluebeam Certified Instructor and AEC Technical Specialist today with us. Ari, take it away.
Thank you, Raquel. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Once again, I'm Ari. I'm with Digital Drafting Systems, and today we're going to be looking at Bluebeam Revu, and in particular, Bluebeam Revu for construction. So we're going to be looking at some different kinds of features. We're also going to see how Bluebeam works with Excel and how you can go from Excel or Bluebeam and get all your information there. And so let's look at our topics for today. We're going to be looking at customizing our markups and measurements. We'll look at some formatting styles and my favorite measurement tool, the dynamic fill tool. I might have shown this to you guys in previous presentations, but I always get a kick out of sharing it. The document comparison and overlay tools are essential, especially in the construction industry, and I'll be showing you guys the difference between the two and how you can use them both in conjunction. The markups list and summary reports will also help us to organize our markups, and then you can make some hyperlinked reports. Today, I'm going to show you how to make an Excel summary report, which is a little different from the PDF one, but it takes your information and puts it directly in Excel in two different ways. We'll look at Bluebeam Studio, projects and sessions, the difference between the two, and if we have some time, security and flattening at the end. I also want to go over a little bit of a signature step that you need to take in order to have your signatures be read and certified by other PCs and other people. So I'll go over that a little bit later. It'll be like a special thing we'll do. So without further ado, let's switch into Bluebeam Revu. All right. So I'm in the program right now. Before we continue, I like to give everybody the option. I'm going to go to the review dropdown and go to preferences. And you might have noticed that I'm using a theme that's a little bit unorthodox. So I'm going to change it to the dark theme. This is the default theme in Revu. And more than likely, I assume everybody would rather see this one. All the icons pop out a bit more. If not, let me know, and I can always go back. But I'll let you guys answer. You can put your questions in the questions area. You can also type in the chat area. Make sure that you're typing to everybody. And yeah, we'll go from there. So without further ado, let's see. Our first topic is going to be customizing markups and measurements. So let's go directly into it, because basically you guys already know that we can make profiles with Revu. So if you like the way it's organized, you can make your profile, save it, and share it. But we've already gone over that. So let's go into markups. And we can find most of our markups in our tool chest once we add them there. To add a markup to the tool chest, all you have to do is click on it and then right click. And you have this lovely, lovely set of options here. And one of them at the bottom is add to tool chest. And here we can add them to a number of tools. Before we continue, I do want to show off a few fun tools that I've found. Bluebeam has actually made a lot of these available on their website. It's their extensions, they call them. So I'll provide a link to that in some subsequent emails. Just email me and I'll send you guys all these tools. So in the top, we have my favorite tools, and I reuse these over and over again. Especially in the construction industry, I know that calculating different dimensions and making callouts is basically the mainstay of construction, and that will be probably 60 to 70% of your workflow. Then we have some recent tools that you'll see pop up here. I actually have some basic stamps that you can use, and these are probably useful for any kind of a discipline. And so these stamps came from Bluebeam themselves. Proofreading tools, because I'm a writer, and you guys might be too. We have some design symbols, doors and windows, so on and so forth. I mean, you can basically find every single tool that you can think of. We've even got things from construction symbols to electrical tools. Anything that you make in Revu as well can be used as a tool. So you can actually combine different markups into one and put them into your tool chest. We have HVAC valves, plumbing. We can even go so far as to get some landscaping options and people. That could be fun if we want to calculate walkways and other different things and make sure that everything fits and is ergonomic. Fire and life and safety symbols for those specific disciplines could be useful, especially in the construction industry. And at the end, there's actually some estimation tools. So if you guys are trying to do some basic estimations for certain materials, for example, you can designate different kinds of carpets, different tiles and brick, for example, that could be quite useful. So all of these tools are available online, and all I had to do was load them on my PC, double click on them, and the program just installed them. It was so easy. Just so you know, At the end, I will be showing you guys what this certificate is. This is going to allow people to see my signature if I sign a document and actually register it and ensure that it's valid. Without this, my signature's identity would become unknown. So another sneak preview onto that. So let's look at some markups. As you guys know, we can find our markups from the tools dropdown in markup. We have the whole list here. Some markups that I want to use in particular are going to be the polyline one, and I'm actually going to use it in another way in something called sketch to scale. So we have these markups here, and I can use polyline, sure. So what I can do is I can click on an empty area. I can move my mouse anywhere I'd like, and basically I can make a polyline. I can snap to certain things. So what I've done is I've actually activated something called a status bar. You might have seen me go over this in another webinar, but I'll show it to you guys again. It's very important. We go to tools and toolbars, and we have this status bar. I'm going to turn it off, and you'll notice that the bar at the bottom where it says ready is going to turn off. So that's the status bar. There it is again. It comes with all of these awesome shortcuts, and the ones that are very important are snap to content and snap to markup. So snapping to content means I'll snap to any of these vector lines that were made in a CAD or BIM program, and they have some special properties. So if I go back to my tools, markup, and let's go back to polyline, I can start to snap to these, and I can snap to their endpoints. They'll highlight in blue. That little square will highlight blue. And you can even change the color of this cursor. I've changed mine to red so I can see it a bit clearer. It's actually a kind of like a red purple. And so if I go down here, I have snap to markup, and this allows me to actually snap to my markups. So now I can use this tool and I can start to snap to certain aspects of the drawing, and that is quite nice. But let's pretend that you actually don't have that capability. Let's say that you want to be able to make a spline or a rectangle or a polyline or an ellipse at an exact specified size while drawing it. This is very similar to dynamic input in programs like CAD and BIM. So what we're going to do is we're just going to turn off snap to markup because it involves some extension lines that can get a little bit messy. And we're going to go do sketch to scale. This is where you can take markups that already exist. You can see that we have the polyline, rectangle, ellipse, and polygon ones, and they have counterparts here. So we're going to do the same thing with these. Let's look at the polyline one first. So just like I said, turn off this thing, because what's going to happen is all of these little leader lines are quite useful, but they can make things a little bit hard to draw accurately, and we don't want to use them right now. So we're not going to snap to markup. We can still snap to content. Let's make our first origin point. And now you can see that we have some constraints that are visible right next to our cursor. They move with us, and we can now specify a lot of things. It's pretty simple if you guys have used programs like AutoCAD or Revit before. So I'm going to say that I want to go 10 feet, and I'm going to press tab, and now I can specify my rotation. So 10 feet at a 45-degree angle, you can see that it actually moved my mouse according to the angle. And as I type a new angle, it changes it back. So 45, we'll click enter, and that is exactly at 45 degrees from the origin. So now let's do a negative rotation. We're actually going to move our mouse down here, and we can specify our length. Let's go 15 feet, tab, let's go to -90. So that's it, basically how you can go straight down. And we can continue this on, and that's it. Now, let's click enter again, and you'll notice that wherever my mouse was, it actually makes a new segment. So this could be a little bit counterintuitive at first. Don't worry, there's two ways to circumvent this. If you're making the polyline and you're at the end here, just don't move your mouse, press enter, and you'll be good to go. If you accidentally make an extra segment, all you have to do is hold your shift key, and now you can see that my cursor has a plus sign on it when I'm on a line, and it has nothing when I'm not on it. And if I move to one of these grips right here, these yellow dots, now I have a little minus sign, and I can click, and now I've gotten rid of that segment. So I can add new segments like this, and I can get rid of them just by holding shift and clicking. And shift is really versatile in that way. So that's the first one. Let's look at some others. We're going to look at the polygon one, and I'll show you guys how we can close a polygon rather quickly. Let's say that we wanted to make something similar. We want to make basically a triangle. So we're going to go at this origin. Let's go this time at -45 degrees. Oops, let's set our length first. That would be really useful. We'll press tab, -45. So now we're going down to the right. And let's make another line. Let's go up this time. So that's pretty easy. We'll go 20 feet up at 90 degrees. We're going to click enter. And now all we're going to do is click enter again. We've automatically filled in the polygon, and it's ready to go. We have a triangle. So this is a great way to use that tool quite efficiently and quickly when you're on the field and you need to make these measurements quickly. And also, if you want to designate specific measurements that should be made in a certain area, you can make them to scale. That's why they're called sketch to scale tools. If you click on one of these actually, and we go to our properties area, you can see all kinds of information. The polyline one is showing us the full length overall. And then we have the polygon one, which is giving us square footage immediately in the comments area. We can also find this if we go to our markups list. This is how we activate it right here. And we can see that under area, it just tells us 35 square feet, and the comments say the same thing. So whichever one of these criterion you have open, they'll have different information on them based on the markup that you have. Here's the other one. It looks like instead of area, it just has it under comments. So there isn't a length one, or I haven't turned it on. So you can actually go here, and here's length. And there, I've turned it on so we can see that we can set our units to be different in different kinds of columns in our markups list. Let's go back to our sketch to scale tools. I just want to show you guys quickly how the rectangle and the ellipse one work. We can not only just make rectangles, but we can actually make squares too. So by default, I'm making a rectangle, and I can set its width, and then I can press tab and height, and press tab and rotate it, of course. Instead, I want to make a square. So I'm actually going to hold shift for a little while, move my mouse a bit, and you'll notice that as I move, no matter whether I go up or down, the width and height are matching. So if I just do 25 feet, tab, tab, and if I go to my rotation here, let's make it a rotation of 38 degrees. It looks like when you do tab, it doesn't keep the square, but that's okay. We can just type it in here and we can press enter. So now we've made a perfect square, 25 feet all around. It's 625 square feet automatically calculated for us. So rather fast, and here it is in our markups list. Let's look at the ellipse one last. This one's quite interesting because you can actually start off with a radius only, which allows you to make a perfect circle. If I hold shift for a little while and move around, it acts like a toggle, sometimes shift or control. In this case, control allows you to toggle between ellipse mode and circle mode. So now we can set our width, let's set it to 20 feet, and let's set the height to 10 feet with no rotation. And now we have our perfect ellipse at exactly those parameters and dimensions. And it gives us a nice square footage too. So if we have anything to calculate in that way, we can do it. What's also nice about these features is that all these grips allow us to really start to mess with it, the shape. So we don't have to make perfect ellipses. If we have some kind of circular shape, we can start to use the grips to basically snap to different components of this office, for example. Obviously, there's a better way to get the area of the office. That's dynamic fill, but we'll go into that later. Okay, so that is sketch to scale. Let's see if we have any other markups in particular that I want to show you guys, besides some measurement ones. But yes, as you guys know, we do have the Cloud Plus tool. So if you want to combine a cloud and a call out, you can always do that. I'll show it to you quickly just so you know. You make the cloud, and immediately after, a nice leader line is ready, and you can just click again and put data right there. So that is a great way of combining the two markups very quickly. Something else that I didn't show in my last webinar, but I have shown a little bit before, is you can actually turn this into a revision cloud quite easily. You just type the number 1, click outside of the box, and then in your properties area, it's this gear wheel right here. You can now scroll down, and we have the shape right here. Let's change it to triangle. And if, let's say I made the triangle too big or too small for some reason, no problem. All I have to do is, while this markup is highlighted, we have all these extra options down here. And I can click on auto size text box, and there it is. So now I have this nice revision cloud. Let me move it a little bit closer. Let's move it, I believe, from one of these grips here. And there we go. And basically you can start to modify this and make this exactly the way you want. I've actually saved my own in the markups list, or in our toolbox, excuse me. All right, so besides those tools and sketch to scale tools, we also have some measurement tools. I've shown them before, and basically these also mimic some of the sketch to scale tools that we've seen. Let's look at the dynamic fill one more time. This one's really special, and this can be a little bit confusing to use at first. Make sure that your settings are set here, and also if you go to your review dropdown and click on preferences, you can go to tools and then measure. And here, these are actually not really measure settings, but they're actually all dynamic fill settings in particular. The output is quite nice. What you can do is it's set to 300 by default. Set it to 400, and this will make your dynamic fills more accurate. It will require more computing power, but not by much. So you should be able to see no major downsides to increasing your DPI. I've set my fill size to 30. Fill speed is 30%. The boundary is at 25%, and I can change whatever color I like. I happen to like green. And the boundary for blue is decent. It doesn't pop out so much, so actually let's change that to a bit of a lighter blue. Let's look at a dark cyan, for example. I think that'll be a bit better. I always set my edge sensitivity to high because I find that low goes through lines too quickly. And with high, you have more control with your boundaries over what you're filling in. Let's click OK. And now these settings are here by default. If I was to change my settings here, every time I would reuse the tool, I'd have to input the settings again, and that's no bueno. So let's now use our dynamic fill boundary. We've already done this office in previous ones. Let me challenge myself and do a different one. Median 215 is a pretty good one. It's got another curve. Why not? So we have our boundary ready. All we have to do is go inside of where we think our lines should be, just so that we can make a pretty accurate boundary. It doesn't have to be perfect. And we're just going to mouse down. I'm holding shift to keep it straight, clicking again, and any gaps are not a problem. Let's press enter. The boundary is ready. These gaps are not going to interfere too much, and we can fix them afterwards. Now, what kind of fill do we want? I've shown the area one. I think that we can do a volume one this time. And in particular, I don't have any volumes saved in my tool chest, so when I click on the drop-down, there are none that I can use. I can just do the default properties. Under area, it looks like I have a lot of different kinds of areas. So this is a great way to see if you're missing any customized tools, and it looks like I am. So with that case, let's zoom out a bit. Let's go click on the fill right here, and let's get ready. So all we have to do is not only click inside the room, but we want to include anything inside these lines and inside these lines, but not past the boundary. So I'm clicking and holding and moving a little bit, going back to the center and letting go when I see the room filled. This is pretty good. You can see that there was a little bit of an error here, and that's a great example of how we can fix the fill after the fact. Let's click on apply. Now the default settings for the volume tool are used. Let's move our text in like that. We just held shift, clicked on the text, and we can move it independently from the area markup itself. If I didn't do that, I would move the whole markup like this. We don't want to do that. Okay, so now we have all of these grips. Let's fix up what we've got here. It looks like it didn't count this wall in particular, or it looks like this wall actually does stop right there. So we can actually leave it like that. It looks like it picked that up. This over here is a bit of a problem. So just like before with the grips, I'm going to hold shift and get rid of these grips just by clicking on them. And I think I'm going to need an extra one. So let's make one right there, and let's move it to snap around there. That's pretty accurate. It's a pretty decent fill right there. And up here, it looks like it actually didn't take into account that gap. It looks like it skipped it directly. There aren't all these extra grips. Sometimes there are. So it looks like this one works really well. Okay, and now this says 0 cubic feet for many reasons. That's because right now there is no depth set. So we're going to go to our measurement panel, and all we have to do is set a depth for this room. So, and we can also use this to calculate the amount of cost it would take to fill in the room with a certain material. If I assign a material to it, then we can see that. So let's go to depth. Let's say that we're pouring in a good 6 inches or so of concrete, for example. And now that we've clicked enter, we just need to click away from it. 56 cubic feet is the answer, and we can change the units right here. So under volume, we can choose a number of different ways of representing that. We also have some, not only imperial, but we also have metric units. So everything here is available. Let's do a cubic inches actually. Nice, that's a lot. Let's do cubic yards. Perfect, only 2. So it's not that big of a room. Perfect, so we'll leave it like that. And that is how we use dynamic fill and how we can modify our measurements after the fact. This measurements panel is great. Another thing I want to touch on, just because this is something that I know that some people have seen, and I may as well go over it now. In the measurements panel, you'll see that we have this viewports area right here. Viewports is very useful. What we do with these is they are created automatically when you're using a CAD program. Let's say you're using AutoCAD, for example, and you go to your layout space, you create a viewport, you are viewing your model through that viewport, then you make a PDF of it and you open it in Bluebeam. What will happen is the viewport itself will show up in Bluebeam. I'm actually going to make a new viewport and show you what that looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a viewport around this markup right here. This is an image that I have, and all I need to do is make it around, I'd say that size is pretty good. Let's extend it a little bit to the left because I have some text and dimensions I want to put. And what's nice is this viewport allows me to change and set my scale just for this area on the sheet. So if I have a general scale, right now you can see it's 1/8 of an inch equals a foot right here and here. Then we can set this to be a little different. Let's say that this is a detail that we want to be set to 3/4 of an inch equals a foot. The precision, we want it to be 1/16. And this is a preset, which is nice. I could also go to custom and I can start to make different kinds of scales according to 1 inch or different amounts of inches, if that's a little easier to calculate. But let's do it like this with our presets. We can also calibrate the viewport itself if we wanted to, so I could actually measure how long this from here to here would be. The problem is that this is an image and this is not to scale. So in this case, we're just going to set it. Our viewport's ready, and now we can see it under viewports. This is the same place to go if you're trying to get rid of an untitled viewport that came with the CAD program. So many of our clients have told me, oh, I open up my drawing, I try to calibrate it, and it's not letting me, and I don't know why. And every time I click on the calibrate thing, this blue screen pops up. And so now if I zoom in, you might find this screen a bit familiar. This is the blue screen that you're going to see all around your drawing. That's why I zoomed in. And in this case, we have chosen our viewport and we've made it in a specific spot. But if it comes from CAD, you can imagine that the entire sheet will have a viewport except for my title block. So that can be a bit of a problem. So now what's nice about this viewport is different measurements are going to change when they go inside of it. So let's see how that works. By the way, once you deselect a viewport, you can't accidentally select it again. It's quite a nice thing. The only way is to go to your measurements panel, click on the viewport right here. We can also give it a new name, for example. So I can click on rename viewport. We're going to call this detail 3/4 of an inch. Nice. Now let's put a measurement inside of here. Tools, measure, length. And let's make a regular measurement first because I want to show you guys what's going to happen. It's quite cool. We're going to make our measurement here. Our page is calibrated at 1/8 of an inch equals a foot. Something happened with the snaps there. So I'm going to make that one more time. It's good to be safe. Let's use the measurement that I saved in my tool chest. Let's make sure that I'm snapping properly. It looks like there's something odd going on there, but that should be fine. And let's move to this area, 30 feet. Excellent. That looks much better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this length measurement, and before I move it into the viewport, because that's obviously the fun part, let me show you guys some formatting options. I might have shown this a little bit before, but I just want to make sure that you guys are familiar with how to make this measurement look the way you want it to. You can hold shift and you can move text independently, so we can click on the text, just like how we did before when we did dynamic fill with this room. We can just hold shift, click, and move this text anywhere we'd like without moving the measurement or the length. And now all we have to do is get rid of this leader line. So we go back to properties and we click on show caption leader line right here. And now it's gone. We can move our text a little bit lower, and that is much more standard and much better. And now the fun part is, let's go back to measurements and see where the viewport is. So we are actually partially inside the viewport. So notice that the measurement is still saying 30 feet. If I'm going to click on it now and move it fully encapsulated within the viewport, it will now change to accommodate the viewport scale. So now this measurement is at 5 feet only in this viewport. And that's what's nice about measurements. They will automatically scale when you move them in and out of viewports. So something interesting that I think you guys might find handy. Okay, we have gone through a lot. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. I think that there might be a few questions in the questions area because we've covered quite a few things. Does anybody have any questions before we move on? Let's see if we have any questions. Raquel? Looks like we can't hear you, Raquel, if you're talking.
No questions. Nothing.
No questions, no problem. Perfect. Okay, so let's look at document comparison and overlays next. All right, let's compare two different kinds of documents. I might have already shown this to a few people, but it's nice to see a little refresher of this one. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our file access, and you might have noticed that I've actually organized some files already from the get-go. To do this, all we have to do is mouse over a file, and we can click on the pin icon. You notice that there's 3 pin icons that are now going in a horizontal direction. But if I mouse over an icon or a file that has not been pinned, it will have the pin icon facing down. I can click on that. I can click on an existing category. So this one is called presentation floor plan revisions. Here it is right there. I can make a new category if I want to. So let's go and look at the floor plan. You might recognize this floor plan. It's the exact same one that we're using, except it has no markups. And what we happen to have as well is a revision. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare this with its revision, and we're going to see how that works. Let's go to our document dropdown, and we have compare documents first. When I think of compare, I think of where. So that's how I remember what it does and how it works. So we need to choose our first document. Let's make sure that we're choosing the correct one. We're going to go to here, and here is the first floor plan. Now let's go to the second one. There it is, revision 1. It's the same floor plan with a different revision, of course. This is a great way for you guys to compare your current documents with your revisions and make sure that everything has been dealt with accordingly. These settings are fine. We can go into advanced, and we have a number of different settings that we can mess with, including the color and fill color of our clouds that are going to show us where our revisions are. Hence, compare where. So here is our revision comparison. It says underscore DIFF, and I've actually done this before. That's why it has parentheses 1 next to it. So if we zoom in, we can see that we have clouds over certain areas that are telling us that something happened in these areas. And what's nice is that Revu has split my screen automatically, and it synchronized the page, not the document. That way I can see different pages at the same time. And so whenever I move, the other page is moving with it. So this is great. We can see that there's all kinds of changes that happen to the document. The question is, we have to kind of guess as to what they are. We can see clearly what they are in some ways. But here, for example, what exactly happened in Office 249 and 250? So that's why this tool should not be used exclusively. And that's where overlay comes in. Let's get out of this. We don't need to save it. And let's go. We can actually get rid of our floor plan for now. Let's go to our document once again, and let's click on overlay pages. Now it's asking us which pages to overlay. So I believe that we just need to click on the second page, and it'll automatically keep the first one open. Let's see if that's true or not. Yes, I believe it is. It's asking me some settings about it, some the color. We're going to leave it all at default. Yes, so the first one is the floor plan, second is revision. If we needed to, if the pages were different sizes or if the building moved, we could still align points. So we could actually, oops, it looks like I lost control of my mouse for a second. Might be Sandra. So we can click on align points here, and it's asking us to choose 3 points. So I can just basically choose 3 points that are identical in both documents. So I could choose there, up there, for example. I could choose some columns or some grid lines. For now, let's not worry about that. I'm going to click on escape. I'm back to the dialog, and let's click OK. So the overlay is now showing us exactly what changed, but it might be a little difficult to spot small changes because you have to look for the colors. Here we can see a wall was removed. It used to be there in red, and now a green door is there. Anything in green is new, so we can see now that the office actually got bigger. So it was a little hard to see when we went to our comparison, but the overlay can show us exactly what happened. The comparison was nice because it told us that there was a problem in that area. So you can use both of these tools in conjunction to see what's going on. And now that I saw the comparison first, I know where to look. So this is great. I can see exactly what changed here. And that's how we use our comparison and overlay tools. They're very, very useful. Let's go back to our PowerPoint and see what's next. Our markups list and summary reports, except this time Excel summary reports. And the markups list we looked at a little bit. We're going to look at it again. Just so you guys know, because I don't share it in every single webinar, there are ways to sort and filter our markups list. All we have to do is click on one of the headings right up here, and we can sort by that heading. So I could sort by author. Let me actually get out of the floor plans because they have no markups. Let's go back to our regular floor plan that has tons of markups. And let's sort by author. So here we can see that from the top, we have those as not by author, but everything under my name is now right after that, along with any other people. Here are some other authors and so on and so forth. So that's how we can sort quite easily. We can go ascending or descending order. And we also have the filter button. So with this filter button, we can click on the master filter button right here. And then we have these small filters that are next to our columns. So what we can do is we can click on a filter right here, and we can click on any number of different criterion. So I want to filter by architect, and that's it for now. And you can even see that on the sheet, now that I've filtered by it, the markups list does not contain any other markups by anybody else, and the sheet only shows the color of the current markups that are filtered. All other markups can be selected, but they're grayed out. So they're not really visible, they're hard to see. Let's go and back to our filter. We can actually do custom, where we can choose multiple different criterion. Let's click on all, and we're gonna click on the master filter button because we are done filtering. Okay, let's look at some of our columns really quick, and then I'm gonna make you guys a customized Excel sheet. We're gonna go to columns, we have manage columns, and under custom columns, we have all these different kinds of columns that can help you guys. In the construction field, you might be doing some cost analysis if you're curious to see how much of a material will cost or if that's being requested of you. So you can actually set a material column. Let's look and see how this one works, where I've chosen different materials and I've given them numbers. So I've made the cost of concrete, for example, the numeric value of concrete to be equal to 3. So every square foot of concrete equals 3 something. And what I've done with this something is I made it $3 and I've set the currency. So we do that by making a cost analysis column alongside the material one. So for the floor area, we're going to click on modify. We've now chosen its type to be formula, instead of choice, which was how the material one worked. And so here we can say that the material times the area should equal the cost analysis. We want it to be in a currency format, not just numbers. So now we can use dollar signs or any other different currency that's available around the world. And we have our decimal places that we can choose. So for currency, 2, I think makes sense. And once we have that ready, we can look in our markups list and we can see that if I was to click on any of these areas, let's zoom in and click on this one, it's highlighted in the markups list, and we can see that 240 square feet of concrete equals $720 according to my calculation of basically 240 times 3. Obviously, these numbers are arbitrary. I don't know the cost of any of these materials. And we can look at other ones. That one is actually steel, so that should have a multiplier of 4. So if 269 square feet equals $1,076, that sounds like, 1,076 divided by 4. So that's how we use those columns. Let's make an Excel spreadsheet and let's do it really quick. So all we have to do is look at this summary button right here. We have 2 different kinds of Excel sheets. We can make CSV summaries, we can make XML ones. CSV is basic data. So once you make this, it can work in any version of Excel. It's going to be very basic. Let's do that one first, actually. We have some settings that we can modify. Let's start with columns. We can look at the different kinds of columns that we can include in the summary report. Under filter, we want to make sure that we're either filtering specific criterion or that we're not filtering anything. So all we have to do is click on all, and all is available. Perfect. Under output, we can export as CSV, XML. We can always change the output right here. So for now, we're going to leave it at CSV. We can choose where it's going to be exported. I think that the desktop is fine for now. And we can give it a name. So we're going to call this spreadsheet. There we go. We can make multiple reports per subject. So if there's different subjects, you can actually split the report into different sheets. We're going to leave everything in one sheet. I think that'll be fine. And we have all different kinds of settings here. For now, I think we're going to leave everything as is. Let's actually include totals as well. I think that'll be perfect. Markups and totals, of course. And that way we can actually choose between either or if we had to. And I believe that we're ready to go. We can save this config for future use. So this actually becomes a small file that you can put on your PC. And actually, let's save it. Why not? I like this one. We're going to put it right here, and we're just going to click on Save. Now let's click on OK. And now the Excel sheet is being made. It actually went to my second monitor, and here it is. Perfect. So this is all of the markup data that we had available to us. The date wasn't there, so it put all of these number signs. But for the columns that actually had data in them, it looks like they all came out pretty accurately. So we can see all that info. And this is a very basic text box Excel way to do it. While we're here, I want to show you guys how we can turn this into a PDF. So we actually have an extra tab that will be installed automatically. When you install Bluebeam, Bluebeam will ask you to close out of all the different programs that you're using. And that's because it's actually placing in plugins in many of them. So almost every single Microsoft Office product, so many different kinds of CAD and BIM products, AutoCAD and Revit are not exclusions, of course. So it makes its own extension and it's very easy. Let's look at our settings. We can modify a lot of settings here and make sure that we are taking all the information that we need from the Excel file or Microsoft Word file or whatever program that we're using, AutoCAD and Revit, of course. It's going to take bookmarks and labels and hyperlinks. It's amazing. And we can even say that we want to transfer our hyperlinks as bookmarks if we wanted to back into Revu. That's a great idea. Let's do that. And we have different kinds of ways to select, etc. Our page setup, we can change it a little bit. PDF security is awesome. Here we can actually require people to use passwords to open the document to begin with. So we have some basic security settings here. And as soon as we turn these on, we actually have more settings that turn on under our permissions. So this is quite nice. We're going to leave it as is. We'll keep it open. Let's click on OK. So those are our settings. Let's click on Create PDF. And basically, within a matter of seconds, our PDF is nearly ready. We're going to call this one underscore converted back because that's exactly what it is. Let's click on Save, and it should open automatically in Revu once it's done. That wasn't so bad. All right, let's look and see what we've got. Right now, it's automatically detected that this is an 8.5 by 11. So we're going to click on our one full page button right here. And that's odd. It looks like it made a blank sheet. So man, isn't that embarrassing? So looks like there might have been some settings that didn't work in that one. But basically, at least you know that you can definitely go from Review to Excel. Oof, man, that's a good one. I bet you all are laughing on the other end. So I'll look at the settings later, and if you guys have any questions about that, we can work on that. But that was quite strange. I wonder what happened. Anyway, well, let's make an XML summary report because we're not going to spend time troubleshooting that right now. So let's go back to our markups list. We'll go to our summary button and let's click on XML. So this one is basically very similar. We'll make sure that our filters are correct in columns. And this one is going to have some fancy features. It actually kept my save config, my configuration, because now all those settings are still there. So that's quite good. All right. It should be opening Excel one more time, but it looks like I'm also getting some fancy Microsoft stuff and browsing protection. Thank you, Norton. All right. Wow, I have no idea what just happened. Let's actually close the current tab. It actually made this web browser. So for some reason, it looks like when I try to make an XML summary, it's taking it to the wrong place. Well, I can go into Excel and look at my settings later. Sorry about that, guys. Another embarrassment. But don't worry, it's definitely possible, and I've done it before. And basically, it just provides some drop-down windows, some colors, and whoops. Well, let's finish off strong and make a PDF one, because this is my favorite one. Everything is still the same. We're going to append and hyperlink the current PDF. We'll click OK. Man, well, it just goes to show that nobody's perfect, right? So we'll definitely look at those settings. And if anybody has any questions about, if the same error happens to them, don't worry. There's plenty of documentation on this on our blog, online, and I'll get to the bottom of it. All right, good. So now we're making a PDF summary report. I show this in almost every webinar that I do, but I think it's pretty important to reiterate because this is one of the main features of Revu. It's quite powerful. We're going to click on one of our sheets. So I'm in our thumbnails list right here. Let's go into a random sheet. Let's go to this one. And one of the offices is a good one because I don't know where it is off the top of my head, and I can only guess. Or instead, I can just click on the image and be taken to it right there. So that's the power of making a PDF hyperlinked summary report. In Excel, I don't think it works quite the same. So it's a little bit different, and it depends on what kind of information you're trying to get. I believe that this one is very useful in the construction industry because you can just bring this summary report with you as a PDF. You can have it with you on your Surface Pro. You can have it with you on your laptop, whatever is easier. And you'll have full functionality of Revu, and you can use these to find markups in seconds. So it's that easy. All right. Well, let's see what our next topic is. Bluebeam Studio, that is a good one to go into. Before I continue, are there any questions about what we went over? And is anybody, if anybody wants to follow up on terms of those Excel blunders, let me know. There's definitely ways to fix it. It looks like I do see a question.
Yeah, I put a question on the chat. Can you design do torsion loads?
Can you design due to torsion loads? Interesting. I don't actually know what a torsion load is. I believe that you can, but I would have to understand what that concept is. It's actually the first time that I've heard of it. I've worked for 2 engineering companies before, but I've never heard of that term. I'll definitely like to follow up with you. So whoever that is, if you can get their email, I will definitely follow up. And more than likely, I believe Revu is probably accommodated for that if it's a common practice in the construction industry. So.
Okay, I have other questions. Is it possible to get a link to the video and presentation? Yeah, we're recording. The information is very good. Fast-paced, plus Bluebeam is on our office, not on the laptop. It would be good to view the presentation along with trying to out with the program. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna send you the recording after, so don't worry about that.
Absolutely. And then I'm also going to be sending a link to our blog so you guys can see some of these other tutorials more in depth and more specific to whatever you're trying to accomplish, or if you get stuck. Okay, let's look at Bluebeam Studio. Looks like we have about 20 minutes or so. So Bluebeam Studio is fine with this little icon right here. It has now logged me in, excuse me. And let's say that you're not logged in. I'm going to actually sign out so I can show you guys. You're going to see this screen, and you can choose which region you're in. And let's click on sign in. And it's going to ask you for your password if you already have an ID. If you don't, just click on create account right here. Another thing while I sign in is that Bluebeam Studio is very special. what you can do is you can use studio sessions and you can invite people who are not owners of Bluebeam. So people don't have to own it and they can use studio sessions with you. Oops, looks like I don't know my password. Let's see if I know it now. There we go, I think, yep. So now I'm in studio and you can invite them to sessions. So as you guys might already know, we have projects right here and sessions is the second one right here. So with studio sessions, I know that, and I've tested it already with myself and with my colleagues. All you have to do is have someone that either has a trial of Bluebeam or owns the program and they can make a studio session. And then all you have to do is just click on this plus button, click on new session, and boom. And then once you have your information, for example, once you have your 9-digit key, or once you're in the session itself, let me go into a session first instead of projects this time. And let's say that you want to add somebody to the session while keeping it secure. You don't want people to just get in with this 9-digit code. This is easy to share and it's kind of compromising. So we're going to click on our attendees right here. These are our permissions. We can actually click on copy invitation and we can paste that into an email and we can restrict attendees by email address. This is very, very important. This makes sure that nobody can get in unless they have an email invitation and unless they're on this list. And I can actually start to add people to this list right now. I can click on add right there, or I can click on this little invite button right here, goes to the same place. And we can see that our copy invitation button is here again. I can invite people with this plus sign. And this is basically a group of people that I can invite. Because now what I'm doing is I'll invite them this one time. They can rejoin over and over again, of course. But I can actually message all of them specifically. So if I'm inviting people that I want to give admin privileges to the session, maybe I just want to say, you have admin privileges, you know, you work in my company, this is internal, thank you. And if I'm inviting other people that have different privileges, I can give them a different message and group them together. So this is what you can do with this session invite. In this case, we're in the session now, and basically once they get invited and they don't own Bluebeam, it's not a problem whatsoever because they can basically use Review Standard. They'll have access to things like markup tools and measurement tools. Dynamic fill will not be available, but most of these tools will be. And they can actually still make their own tools and tool sets in the tool chest, and they'll still be able to use Review. They're going to be in something called View mode. It's found under the Review dropdown, and I'm going to switch to it right now. What's going to happen is Review is going to change how it looks a little bit. And this is kind of an offline mode, and it's telling me right here in the center of my screen, you can continue to view PDFs and participate in studio sessions. Participate means you're using Review Standard, so you have lots of functionality. For the full functionality of Review, switch to markup mode from the Review menu, of course. Let's click OK. And so I can basically still choose my profile. So you might have noticed that not everything really changed, but I'm not able to work on local files. So right now my tools markup, everything is grayed out, and I have no access to these tools up here. But if I was to go back into sessions, let's actually double click on this file in my session. I can go to tools and I have access to my markups. Now, if I go to measure, for example, you'll see the dynamic fill is grayed out. So it's telling me that I'm using Review Standard because I'm in view mode, but in a session, I still have functionality. So it's pretty nice. This is actually going to be quite useful, especially since all of us are basically experiencing some uncertain times and we're all working remotely and from home, most of us, if we have jobs that allow us to do that. So in that case, this is a really good way to keep your clients in the loop, invite them to a session, upload your documents there, and let them get a taste for Review. They can use it basically this way forever, and if they are interested, they can get a 30-day trial and they can use Review Extreme and have full functionality with dynamic fill, for example. Along with things like OCR, you can actually see under document that everything that's grayed out is not available to people who do not own Review. So now I'm back into markup mode and we are good to go. So we can see that under document, everything is back up. Let's go back into our session and open up that file one more time. So here I've shown you guys where we can see our attendees. We have our record area, of course, so we can see all the different actions that are made in a session. Something to note that in a session, you cannot use forms whatsoever. Forms are not meant to be used in sessions. If you want to make forms, you can make them locally. You can upload them to sessions for safekeeping, but you can't really fill them out in sessions either. So just something for you guys to know. Forms are not meant to be used in sessions. So like I've shown you guys before, we'll go into our properties area. We can see that we can click on these markups and see who is actually the author of this markup. This one was made by one of our training PCs, T5DDS. We have Alan who made this one, I made this one, and you can see that how the grips change when I click on markups that I've created. So in terms of these are my markups, and I can actually modify them and resize them. You're actually going to notice that as I make changes, a little red dot keeps appearing to the bottom right of my markup. So you're going to see it there again and again, and here it is on the bottom right again, 3, 2, 1. And so every time that happens, that means that because I'm connected to the internet, it takes that amount of time, roughly a second, for my markups to become available online. So my colleague can draw markups offline. So especially in the construction field, if you guys are going onto the field and you're bringing your PDFs with you on a Surface Pro or even an iPad, for example, you can basically manipulate your markups there. You don't have to be using the internet. And you're going to see a bunch of red dots next to all of your markups. They're going to stay there until you connect to the internet, basically. And that red dot is basically a small red circle with a cloud on it. So it basically means you're not connected to the internet, you're not connected to the cloud, your markups are local, and you still don't have to worry about saving. You'll notice that on the upper left, my save icon is grayed out. So there's no saving in Studio. All you have to do is there's two different things that you can count on. If you're working locally and you're working in Studio sessions, then don't worry, just keep working. Everything is automatically saving. But if you want to be safe, you can go to File and Save As, and you can have local copies on your mobile devices while you're on the field. To basically, after you make a few markups, save a local copy or rewrite over an existing local copy, and you'll be guaranteed that you'll basically lose no data. You can go back to your office, connect to the internet, everything will go into the studio, and your boss or co-workers could see what you're working on. Another option is while you're working on the field, you can actually work, use your data hotspot, but you don't have to keep it on. So you can work locally, and whenever you're ready and your boss, let's say every 2 hours says, hey, please show me what work you've done. I want to see what your progress you've made while you're still on the field before you come to the office. Turn on your hotspot very quickly, show him, and then basically turn it off, and you'll barely use any data. So just a little tip so that you guys can work remotely really easily. And if you're able to still go on site, then all the more power to you. So let's quickly make a studio session record. We're going to click on this report right here. Actually, not record, report, excuse me. It is also a record summary. You can see that it's kind of an umbrella term. And we have all these criteria that we can include. Let's click on OK. Let's actually make it in portrait. I like to read it that way. It's going to make a brand new file. That is a good name for it. And there it is. So we can see all the different information in our record that is here. We can mouse over it in the record and see it temporarily. But if we really need to print it out and show it, or every few construction cycles, whether you're in the design process or whether you're near completion, you can basically keep records of all the different changes that were made during those cycles. And you can see who's been doing what and make sure that everybody is not slacking off. Okay. So basically that is Studio Sessions in a nutshell. We can look at Studio projects very quickly, and then I want to show you guys some extra little tips on security, and of course, our icing on the cake. What is this file right here, and how will it help you get your signature certified? So in Studio projects, there's basically just a check-in, check-out system. If you guys want to, what I recommend you do is use Studio Sessions for live files. For anything that you're working on in the heat of the moment and you want to invite people to it, and you want to invite people who don't have review, use Studio Sessions. Studio Projects is great for archiving. So if you want to, you can make a project and you can start to place all kinds of information, all kinds of files onto this project. And when you need to access it, great, you have it available. The reason why I recommend this is because Projects is a check-in, check-out system, so only one person can work on a file at once. Let's open up that same file that we had in Sessions, but it's actually the one in Projects, so it's a little bit different. It only has one check. And right now there's that lock icon next to the file. So this file is in the project, it's archived, and anybody with the right permissions can basically check it out. We can click on the lock icon right up here. We can click on checkout, or we can right click on the file right here and click on checkout as well. And now that it's checked out, I can work on it, and this is great. You can definitely use projects if you want to work on files, but the lack of collaboration basically, for me, allows me to say, okay, I want to use this as an archiving tool, and I will take a file from here and upload certain revisions, for example, when I'm ready. So I'm just going to make a brand new check because I love to do that. And then we will save this back on. So all we have to do is right click again and check it in. There is, once again, in projects, you can save, but it's not really going to check in the file. So you can save temporarily what you're working on, but this icon is still telling me that I've checked out the file. If you see this icon and you see a person behind it instead of a piece of paper, that means that somebody else has checked out the file and you cannot check it out at that time. Let's check it back in. Now whoever is part of this project can see what I've done and see all the changes that I've made. So projects is definitely a great way to archive all your files and make sure that you have them safe and sound and recorded from your session, for example. So it's how you can basically start working on a session, save revisions locally, upload those revisions to projects, and that way you have the best of both worlds. You can put things on a local PC, on the network, and definitely on the cloud, which Bluebeam's cloud is an excellent one. It hasn't gone offline in many, many months, if not many, many years. It's very stable. Okay, so that is Studio. Let's look at some security stuff and definitely that certification button. So we're gonna go to, and before we do, I know that we have about 9 minutes left. Are there any questions on anything we went over so far?
No, no questions.
Perfect, looks like we're good to go. All right, great. So let's look at document, and we have security right here. You can see that we have all these different kinds of permissions that right now everything is allowed. If I wanted to, I can go to change permissions and I can start to change my permissions here. I can require passwords to open the document, and I can require passwords to do the following: allow printing, allow changes, etc., etc. I can change my encryption type. There's many different ways of making sure that your documents are secure with Revu. Another thing that's really cool is when you make a signature. So if we go to tools and signature, and let's say that we make one right now, what'll happen is your signature is actually going to start to change those permissions. So I'm going to show you what happens. And this is also going to answer the special question at the end about what this file means. So I'm making a signature. I already made a digital ID. I made it by going to create digital ID right here, and I input the data. So this one is made by Revu, and this basically will also create locally on Revu something called a trusted identity. So I'm going to go over that very soon. Let's log in here first so that we can use this. There we go. That is not the right password because I am using a different password for this. Excellent. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine my signature with document certification. I like to do that because a signature by itself is not as powerful as document certification. And document certification is where our changes and our security will be changed automatically. If I say no changes are allowed, then you're going to see all the different features that will be blocked under security. Filling forms of digital signatures will have a different set of parameters, and the third one, of course, will be a little bit different. Let's do no changes this time. Under edit, let's make sure that everything looks good. I believe my font size is right. Contact info is good. I can click on file, and if I have a seal or a signature, then I can put it on. I know that for construction, that's not very useful, but just in case. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click OK again. Now I'm making a brand new file. I always recommend that you call it something different. You can see that I actually have one of these floor plans here that says signed with CER. So that's my way of designating that I've actually signed this file with my CER or my digital ID certificate. Oops, looks like I don't know how to spell signed. That's kind of correct. Looks like I'm forgetting how to spell the word signed. So I'm going to leave it like that because I am trying to do too many things at once, aren't I, guys? Now we have a brand new file that's been created. Let's look at it right here. And we have our signature. So what this means is that if I go to Tools, Signature, and Trusted Identities, on my PC, I've actually trusted 3 different people. Myself, which I use as a test, my actual self, this is the one that I'm using now, and one of my colleagues. And so what this means is that I've actually had to click on this plus sign right here and add a trusted identity. And I got this file, and I'll show you how I created this file. And this is the exact same one that you see on my screen right here. So this is my .cer file, and this automatically is created when I make a digital signature. So by the way, we can also manage some properties and see some information about this. So we can see that because the certificate is not installed and because I made it with Bluebeam, it has this information. So if you're using third-party software, I definitely recommend that you use that. Let's go back to Tools, Signature, and Validate Signatures. And then we're going to go to the Signatures tab right here. Now we can see that this document is certified and everything here checks out. Basically, I've got the blue logo, Down here, the signature also includes certification, and everything here is working as intended. If I didn't have my trusted identity, then I would actually see yellow icons right here and here. And it would say that the signer's identity is unknown. So if you ever see that, all you have to do is the following. You have to go to Tools, Markup, or excuse me, Tools, and then File Attachment. So let me show you how that works. And there's also, if we go to digital IDs right here, excuse me, so we'll do this first. Signatures, digital IDs. We can see that I have two IDs that I have created and I can manage. Because I made them and because I know the password to them, I'm the only one who can access them. So even if I share this with somebody, they cannot use it to gain information about me. This is just like the second key to the door. So the first key is the document that is signed and a password, for example, to get into it. And the second key to make sure that my signature is certified is this. So all I need to do is click on this and click on export. It makes a brand new file, and I've already done it, so I have it right here. So this is how you get your digital ID certification file, so to speak. Now that I've already had it, everything is good to go. And what I've done is I'm actually going to go back to my file that's not been signed. So let's get rid of the one that's been signed. And if I go to Tools, I can go to File Attachment. So this is a great way to share your .cer, your digital ID certification, with somebody else. What happens is if you actually try to share this with somebody in an email and you send the file as an attachment, the file will actually be locked. It will not only be locked from viewing, but you can't even download it from the email. You'll actually see a little red circle with a slash through it saying that this file has been locked. It is really, really secure. Now, if I attach it to a PDF, it's still locked. Nobody will have my info. But now they're getting a PDF with this file. And what's nice is in properties, I can actually change the icon. So I can actually turn it into all kinds of things. And it's really kind of funny how that works. I can turn it into a paperclip. I like the file icon itself because it looks more official, like a certificate. And basically that's it. It's attached. It can be sent like this easily. No, you don't have to rename the file extension and rename it back. So just a little tip for how you can make sure that your signatures are being certified properly, and how other people can actually check them. Because I can check my own signature. You know, if I open up that file once again, my signature is there because I have the trusted ID on my PC. But if I want to send it to somebody else, I want to give them this file. So I attached it before signing, because here, after signing, I can't make any changes, of course. So attach it before signing, and you get the best of both worlds, and everybody has it easy. They still have to take this file, and they have to go manually for one time only to Tools, Signature, Trusted Identities, click on the plus sign, and add them in. And that's what I did for my colleague. And because of that, I can see anything that he signs in the future, and I can certify that it's been signed and sealed properly. Okay, looks like we went over everything. We've got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to definitely open the floor for questions. Are there any questions in terms of what we've gone over today? By the way, there's a link to a little bit of more information about how Revu is made for general contractors. So are there any other questions?
Yes, there is one more question. I want to go over how you added a detail and then scale it.
Excellent, not a problem. I actually skipped the part with adding the detail, so I'm glad you asked. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our regular floor plan, and let's pretend that this image wasn't there. So all I need to do is go to the Tools drop-down, Markup, and then Image, and I can insert an image from a file, from a camera, scanner. I can even crop it on the fly. Let's just insert it from a file. We're going to use this typical wall detail, the same one that you saw me use before. And there's two different ways to insert it. I can click once, and it comes out at the exact size that it was actually created at, which is a little bit too large. So I'm actually going to delete this one and show you that if we go back to this thing, you can insert it and change its size right on a whim. So I have it in my cursor, and now I can just click and hold and drag, and that allows me to make it whatever size I want. So I now have my detail ready. I can go to my measurement panel and see where my viewport is. There it is. And I've already shown you how to make one. So if you have any questions on how to make a viewport, I'd love to work with you one-on-one, and I can definitely help you with that. I'm just going to move this back into that corner. And now another thing that really helps is if you want this image to not move, you can right click on it and you can click on flatten. Another thing you can do is if you want to flatten this, but also have the option to unflatten it in the future, especially after you save your file, close out of it, open it up again, for example, you want to go to the document tab and click on flatten here. And this way you can actually choose to flatten all images, and it looks like I only have one image on my file. So I can click on this checkbox twice to unselect everything. Click on images. I can allow markup recovery, and whenever I need to, I can unflatten it. For now, I'm just going to simply leave it how it is. I don't need to flatten it. And we can click on the viewport. Perfect. It looks like the image is fully encapsulated. So that's basically how you can put a viewport on, or an image inside a viewport, and vice versa, to put a viewport on top of an image. So I think that should answer that question.
He was also asking, what about changing from 30 feet to 0 to 5 feet to 0?
Oh, I think I know what you're saying. You're talking about when I had that dimension and I moved it. So all you need to do is make a length measurement. Let's actually use this one. So I'm going to do a copy with Control C, and I'm going to do a paste, Control V. So all I need to do is take this and I can move it. So right now, this 30 feet means that it's scaled to my sheet. The entire sheet does not have a viewport. It's just a sheet. And the sheet is at 1/8 of an inch equals a foot. Now, because I made my viewport, I went to the measurements area and I click on my viewport right here, detail 3/4 inch. And there's the title again, and it tells us the inch in terms of how much it equals to a foot. So that's quite nice, 0.75 inches, of course. And all we have to do is move this dimension within the viewport. By the way, you'll notice that I actually can't select any markups right now because I clicked on the viewport and I'm kind of in something called viewport mode. So I can't, if I deselect the viewport by clicking away from it or pressing escape, now I can click on the markup. And then, like I showed you guys before, all I have to do is move this dimension fully encapsulated inside of the viewport, and it changes its dimension according to the scale of the viewport. It's fully inside, the scale is 3/4 inch. So 5 feet is equivalent to 30 feet if you were to switch the scales up. So that's how you can change between this. Oops, let's not move the image. Hold on a second. That's why it's also important to flatten your image. So I'll do that right now temporarily. And so that's how I can move this from 5 feet. And if it's halfway in, halfway out, it changes back to the overall sheet's scale. So even though most of this is inside of the viewport, the overall sheet is at 1/8 of an inch equals a foot. So you have to make sure that this is fully inside of the viewport. And that's how you switch between the two. I think that should answer that question, hopefully.
Thank you. Yeah. One last question. How you can set something for when you send it to somebody else, the other person cannot edit it?
Yes, so that's where security comes in. So there's two different ways to do that. Right now, I could go without signing, without sealing, without anything. I can go to security, so document and security, and I can change my permissions. So if I want to send someone something, but I don't want them to open it, and I just, or if I want them to only be able to, for example, I only want them to print. I don't want them to make any changes. I don't want them to copy any of my data. No extracting is allowed. So all you have to do is say, okay, here's my document. You're only allowed to print it. Here's the password to print. So they can put in the password, they'll open the file, they can only print. So this is the way you do it without signing. Like I showed you guys earlier, if you go to Tools and Signature and you start to sign, then let's actually go to Certify because I want to show you what the difference is between signing and certifying. Certifying does not place a signature on the sheet, so you can certify in the background. So you can basically have a certification happening on the sheet, but it's not going to be visible and the sheet won't say this sheet is certified by blah, blah, blah. It's just going to be certified. And here's where you can also make similar changes, where you can choose under these permitted changes what security features are allowed or not allowed. So this is actually going to change. Oh, I actually forgot to show you guys. Let me show you in the signed one. That's fine, we want to see that. We can go to our document and then security, and here it is. Changing the document is automatically restricted. Assembling the document, restricted. But we can copy and extract content because that signature did not block that out. No worries, we can still change permissions, except that we can't. You'll notice that I tried to click on this button right here, and it's not even doing anything. And that's because you cannot change the permissions of a signed document. That's how secure it is. So if you really want to make sure that the document is secure, don't just sign it. You can also just go to document and security, and you can change permissions that way. Let me show you back here, document security, change permissions. And this is the best way to do it if you want full control over the details. If you want some general security stuff that signatures comes with, use a signature and you should be good to go.
I think that's it. You answer all the questions. Thank you, Ari.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you, Sandra, for your help. Good, good. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. All right. Thank you all very much for attending our presentation. I'm going to let, I don't know if Raquel is available to talk now, or Sandra, if you
Here.
want to end us off.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Raquel. I'll let
All
you
right,
finish us
Ari.
off, and then let me know when you're done with this slide, because we have one more slide to show after this.
All right. Well, Ari, thank you so much for a great presentation. I hope everybody enjoyed it and learned something. Thank you for joining us today. As usual, you can contact us via info@ddscat.com. You can call us, and we will be here for you, especially during these hard times. We have Bluebeam Revu training available. It can be done remotely, so this is a good time to take advantage of your time if you have it, and do some training. I don't know, Ari, if you want to add anything to it.
Yes, we do have a special little note for everybody. We understand that this is a very difficult time for everybody, and a lot of jobs and work has been disrupted. We're hoping that everybody can work remotely, and don't worry, we're here for you. We'll continue to support you all remotely, and you can always call us if you have any questions. We have a blog that has lots of tutorials that I've been making a lot of recordings for, and every day I learn something new from all of you because all of you are sharing your workflow with me. So I really appreciate that, and it makes my job a lot easier to work with you guys. We also do, just like Raquel said, provide online training. I would love to remotely connect with you guys, and basically you can see my screen, I can see yours, we can switch between the two, and we'll have some fun. So let me know if you guys want to learn some more, and we can also do customized training. So if you guys want to learn something specific just for review, I know that this presentation, for example, was geared towards construction. We can definitely do that, and I've already done it before, and I'd love to work with you all. So we hope you all stay safe and take care.
All right. That wraps
Yeah.
up everything. Thank you guys for joining us today. Have a great rest of the day. Be safe, and let's keep in touch. Have a great day, everybody.